Hi, everybody. Dr. Dan Lawrence here, Associate Professor of Writing in the University of Wisconsin-Superior, Department of Writing, Language, and Literature. This video is about why rhetoric. Why do we have it in our writing bachelor's program? You're getting a BA in writing or minor in writing, and it's a question that comes up every semester. Um, it becomes very apparent to some students by the end of the course why we have it in our program. But I do get on student evaluation sometimes these questions about was this really necessary, or I want to write novels. I don't really see the connection with rhetoric. So the purpose of this video is to hopefully briefly just explain some of those really explicit connections and purpose of this class. And I think you will see it by the end of the semester. Um, the first thing to say is that all writing is rhetorical. You're always writing for an audience, and you're going to see direct application. So when we get to Cicero and we think about the concept of invention, where do ideas come from? I mean, how crucial is that for a writer? Where do your plots and your characters and your ideas come from? I mean, there's direct applications of rhetoric throughout. But maybe more importantly, rhetoric is the theoretical framework for writers. This is kind of like your methodology class in a way. If you were getting a bachelor's degree in English, you would take a methods class or literary theory, for example, as part of your degree program to give you the foundational philosophical, theoretical underpinnings of that field of study. If you were studying biology, uh, you would take a theory class. You would take or rather, something like scientific methods, so that you knew the proper procedures for studying that discipline. In writing, we have rhetoric. Rhetoric is our ancient theoretical, historical background, our backdrop, and our underpinning. And we'll see this, rhetoric for Aristotle is the faculty of observing in any given case the available means of persuasion. All writing is rhetorical. You're always writing for an audience. And it's so absolutely directly connected from everything from like the cover of a book, right? The graphic design and textual layout of a book cover to the formatting and font choice that goes inside of it, and how do those decisions influence the perception of the book that you wrote to an audience member? A serif font is going to look a little more, it's going to have weight and gravity and look a little more academic. A sans serif font is something you usually use in a web application or a piece of writing on the web, like a blog. Um, those are design choices that are rhetorical. They're done for us. It's a specific choice for a specific effect on the audience. That's what rhetoric is. It's a specific choice that is intended to have a specific effect on the audience. And then rhetoric is also the toolkit that allows you as a reader, listener, to decode messages, to decode language and writing and communication. So as a writer, you want to have rhetoric in your toolkit. And that spans again from like the construction of sentences to the organization of a paper to the organization of a book to the very design of the book to thinking about how you're going to market and brand yourself as a writer and the web design that you're going to do and what kind of um, language are you going to use to describe who you are as a writer. All of that is rhetorical. Everything you do as a writer, you're crafting language and communication to have specific effects on specific audiences. And you'll see that as you move along in your writing career when you write query letters to agents, for example. Say you've written a novel. You know, you want to think about what are the comparable titles. Is it a subgenre that has a market for it right now? Are people reading in that subgenre? Um, and I'm not just making this up. I've published a couple books now, traditionally published. I have my textbook on digital writing from Broadview Press, and just next month here, I'm going to have my nonfiction book, The History of Humanity's Search for Truth. That's a kind of history of disinformation and rhetoric that's coming out with Urano World. And then I'm working on some other nonfiction projects too. And this is how you have to persuade a literary agent to represent you, and then they have to persuade a publisher to, right, that the book has a market, the book has an audience. So from top to bottom, from your diction, your syntax, the words you're choosing, the way that you set up the structure of your sentences, the rhetorical techniques you use in your writing, anaphora, the repetition of, having repetition and parallel clauses at the beginning of sentences for effect. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the, right. It's rhetorical, and you're going to learn some of those techniques. You're also going to learn the history of rhetoric. You're going to learn even through Plato how what perceptions of writing were like in ancient Greece, and how those ripple throughout time, and this contentious this issue with the sophists, right? The sophists who Plato perceived as being kind of tricksters, as being teachers for hire, um, people who wrote without, people who spoke, people who communicated without a good sense of philosophy, without a good sense of ethics. And how important is that still today? That, you write with meaning, you write with purpose, you write with some kind of intent to have a benefit on the world, social, economic, political, cultural. You're contributing some new ideas to the world as a writer. And so you best think about what you're going to say. You best think about, are you making the best arguments for your case? You best think about, have you investigated that idea fully? This is something important you'll see in Plato's Phaedrus. It's like, first you must be a thinker, then you can be a rhetorician. First you have to be a philosopher. You have to investigate your subject fully. You want to write a nonfiction book about the history of bicycles. You must first consider every angle of that subject. How are you going to approach it? What research are you going to do? What is the scope of the project, and so on? Then how are you going to package it all together and whatnot? Okay, I hope this has helped. It's a really common question I get, and I sometimes see it in student evaluations about the course, is just why? Why rhetoric in a writing program? And so I've tried to give you some quick ideas here about why. Maybe first and foremost is that it's the theoretical underpinning of what we do. In the same way that a biology bachelor's degree has a scientific methods course baked into it, we have rhetorical theory and rhetorical history baked into it, so that you can read the same things that all your favorite authors have read. I don't, every well-known author, every famous author has contended with Plato and Aristotle and Socrates at the cradle of civilization in ancient Athens, in ancient Greece. They've read ancient rhetorical theory. They've come across this concept of rhetoric. You're engaging in the conversation, right? In the scholarly, the academic, the literary conversation that's been going on for thousands of years. It's the theoretical underpinning for your field of study. So it's very important. Secondly, there's all these practical applications, right? From thinking about the design of a book, to the content, to the market, to the how you present yourself as an author to the world, and doing that in a persuasive way. That's all rhetoric. That's all rhetorical. And learning about the history and techniques of rhetoric will help you better conceptualize how to do that, how to build a better platform for yourself as a writer. And thirdly, I think I talked about the specific language use, your actual writing. The writing that you will be more artful, better informed, more nuanced, with a mind for rhetoric, with having studied the history and theory of rhetoric. So I hope that makes sense. And of course, there's many more applications. This is just kind of scratching the surface. I think rhetoric, as this sometimes described as like a sister discipline to philosophy. It's this engagement with language and how we use language and how language influences us and persuades people, and then how we can master it and use that toolkit in our own writing and in our everyday lives, not to sneakily persuade, not to disinform, um, but to do it ethically, to do it meaningfully, to do it powerfully with purpose. That's rhetoric as we inherit it from the ancient Greeks. All right, good luck, everybody. I hope you enjoy. Go slow. Have fun with it. Think about it. Let it stew. Let it boil. Let it invigorate you. Take care, everyone.